I interviewed more than 300 people over the last 10 years and discovered that everybody fails for the same reasons. I want to give you a sneak peek into the hiring manager's mind, what I'm looking for in candidates, what I expect, and how you should adapt your thinking process to pass any interview. I work in games development, and I'm responsible for hiring a variety of profiles: product managers, data scientists, and designers. And I also performed many behavioral interviews for engineers and developers who were joining my team. I built several teams from scratch, designing a hiring process for each required role. This video is not a regular list of tips you can find anywhere on YouTube, but an in-depth look at several aspects that nobody else covers. If you want to know all the secrets, stay with me. The interview's purpose is to determine if a candidate fits the requirements. But nobody realizes that I and everybody else want you to be the perfect fit for what we're looking for. It takes forever to filter out people who don't fit the role entirely, and I invest a lot of time and energy in reading resumes, checking tests, and preparing for each interview. So when I am there, I'm willing to help each candidate to do their best. After all, I'm not running interviews for fun. It is an exhausting process, and I'm willing to offer equal help to everybody who made it this far. Keep that in mind when you go for an interview. We are eager to help you and want to see you succeed, so feel comfortable and use it to your advantage. How can you use it? Well, for example, ask clarifying questions to prompt an interviewer to rephrase their question. That gives you more time to think of an answer, but more importantly, most interviewers will have their questions written out and always ask them in the same way. When you ask to clarify and rephrase it, they inadvertently will give hints about what they want to hear as an answer, since that's the easiest way to explain the question. Another way to get the interviewer to help you is to transform an interview into a two-way conversation. Nobody really likes the interview format. It feels awkward and not engaging from an interviewer's perspective to ask written down questions, and it feels like you're the one being interrogated. On the one hand, it's actually an interviewer's job to make it a conversation, but if they keep shooting questions at you, try this. After you've answered a question, ask a follow-up back at them right away. Something like, "What is your perspective on that? How do you usually handle that in your team? I'm curious to hear what you would do yourself." That makes an interview feel more relaxed for everybody. It engages another person since they have to think and come up with a reply about something they care about. And you get to understand how they think during the interview, which will give you information about their priorities and expectations. While you might get some help during an interview, it still can't be further away from what the actual job will be like. Think of an interview as a game of sorts. Even if you know how to play dice or card games, you still can play that one specific game until you learn its rules. The interview is that one specific game. You have to realize that your experience and skills are only good to get you to the interview, but won't actually help you pass it. I know amazing people I would hire any minute in any team, but are extremely bad at playing by the interview rules. Their answers don't show insight into their thinking and make it look like they don't know anything. Unfortunately, I also knew and hired many people who were brilliant at the interviews and ended up being absolutely incapable of performing the job after they were hired. So basically, we hired those people who did well during an interview regardless of their actual skills. So why performing a job and an interview are so different? Well, when you start working, you're given all the resources and information you need. You're given training, and the expectations of the tasks are crystal clear. Oh well, they should be anyway. And then you complete your task. It's not a pass or fail situation. You receive feedback and improve the results afterward. During an interview, you're given no information to help you unless you obtain that information yourself. And that leads me to the next question. Why does everybody fail? First, remember that there is more than one candidate for a role. Depending on seniority, that can be only a few people or 20 people applying for the same position. By definition, you will be failing more interviews than passing. But whenever I refuse a candidate, it very rarely depends on their skills. And you know why? because there is nothing I can do to actually test their skills during an interview. People fail because they didn't prepare for an interview, don't do anything highlighting their skills, or simply can't come up with any good examples. Let's go over them one by one. The first one is lack of preparation. When I say candidates don't prepare, I really mean it. They seem to jump from one interview to another, participating in 10 processes simultaneously. And while it may seem like maximizing your chances, if you can't afford to prepare for all of them, it's less likely that you get a job than if you interviewed at 1 or 2 places and prepared well. It's one of those situations where quality over quantity is the right approach. You don't have to be perfect, only better than the other candidates. So even if you know just one extra thing that can shift the outcome in your favor, you should research the company, its history, its products, and how it makes money. What are the company's goals and culture, and how will you fit? If you're interviewing for a technical role, it's worth researching what technology they use. And even if you don't know everything required for a job, you have to prove that you can learn and do your own research. Presenting something you had experience with at your previous position or university might help you as well. Show that you can understand complex concepts on a fundamental level and that you will be able to apply them to your new role. At my company, we create mobile games, and when I invite people for an interview, I give them the game they will be working on so they can play it and a list of games similar to ours. I expect them to play those and be able to talk and analyze them from a customer, designer, and a product manager perspective. I had candidates come over not playing a single game from the list and barely understanding what we were making. Of course, those interviews didn't last long and nobody got a job that day. The chances are that you are not a game developer, but every industry will have something similar. Study their products and learn at least something about their company that will help you shine compared to everybody else. Now, about testing your skills. Since I often can't test the actual skills, I ask a lot about examples of how you applied them in your previous positions. I understand that it's difficult to remember a situation precisely that happened a few months or even years ago, but that's why you should try to come up with examples well before the interview based on the job description and experience. And when you think about this, don't try to exaggerate and come up with huge successes only. Examples of failures and how you turn them around, what you learned from them, and how you use them to create an opportunity to improve yourself are much more valuable than success. People learn nothing from their success since they don't reflect on it and don't try to figure out the root cause. However, they do when they fail. In our culture, it's expected to hide your failures. People are not ready to talk about their weaknesses, low points in life, and misfortunes. But if you can, that shows you as a mature person who is self-aware and willing to get better. Look at those who achieved great success. They talk about their failures effortlessly because they know their success has already shaped their image and are confident in showing their imperfections.
2008 was brutal. 2008 we had the 3rd consecutive failure of the Falcon rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible.
This is what you should strive towards. But no matter what you're describing, success or failure, what matters is how you define it. Focus on your journey, your thinking when making a decision, what information you had in your possession and how you leveraged it. I'm interested to know what was inside your head, but even more importantly, your role in that situation, your takeaways, and how that will help you to make better decisions in the future. Let's say I ask a candidate, tell me about a situation when you improved or tried to improve a process, a tool, or anything else to make the team or the product more efficient. There are 3 scenarios of how people fail with this kind of question. First, they just can't come up with anything and say they can't remember, but for sure, this is something they do every week. Second, they can't come up with a simple example and try to answer something generic that makes it sound like they never did anything like this. And third, they try to explain it, but they just say like, yeah, they improved it without providing any conclusions or takeaways, so there is nothing I can learn from their answer. Clearly explaining your thinking process and highlighting your ability to learn and improve yourself is likely more than 50% of the interview's success. It will definitely put you above the other candidates. You answered all the questions brilliantly. Your skills are top of the market and you still can't get a job? I've been there. The truth lies in expectations. To answer the questions, to get a job, you need to do the research to learn what the company expects from an ideal candidate for this position. Let's start easy with a job description. You should deeply understand every line of it and feel free to clarify it with HR to prepare better. Asking many clarifying questions will not make you look clueless. On the contrary, you will look diligent and curious, which are great qualities to have. To perform extensive research, you can reach out to your connections who already work in the company, or maybe some of your friends know someone. Ask them about the position, interview process, and hiring manager, and try to understand the priorities from their point of view. If the company you're applying to is relatively large, you'll find many reviews and other helpful information on Glassdoor. Research as much as you can on YouTube about similar positions and typical questions that you can be asked for this role. There are a lot of people sharing their interview experiences and the application of their skills. Try to find some conference recordings with speakers from that company and learn as much as possible. They represent what the company cares about by giving a public speech to cover these topics. You must first get a customer experience to understand why their business is thriving, understand the products of what the company is making, play their games, use their service, and eat their food. If they're selling something expensive you can't afford, at least visit their stores. Read about what other customers say about their product. What do they like? What do they dislike? And think of ways how you can suggest to improve their product based on the reviews you read. Talk about that during an interview and initiate the two-way discussion about how customers view their product. I'll have a separate video focusing on this topic in a few weeks or months. If you're interested, make sure to check it out. Doing the necessary research will give you the advantage of understanding what is expected of you and how you can contribute to the success of their products. I've seen many candidates asking their first question at the end of the interview. So, what am I going to do? That shows me that they didn't put any effort into the preparation, and even if the information is scarce, you can phrase these questions better. Instead, with all the information you have collected so far, try to tell your view of what they're looking for and ask them to correct your assumption. Or you can ask what precisely they are looking for and what functions exactly you'll have to cover. Another interesting point that many dismiss is the ability to sell yourself. I'm not speaking about telling something that never happened and can't be verified, but taking something that you actually did and selling it in an impactful way. The interview is a product presentation, and that product is you. If you're doing a pitch of your product to a potential client, you'd want to highlight all the best features and what makes your product stand out from the rest, while keeping out everything that doesn't shine. Imagine yourself being a car. Let's say a Mercedes. You can say, well, it's a German-made car, probably more reliable, a bit more comfortable, but twice the price of the Ford. Or you can say, statistically, you're going to spend 50% less on repairing it because it rarely breaks. It depreciates in value slower, so you will save 10% of the cost of your future car if you change it in 3 years. It has a self-parking feature, leather body-shaped seats, and electric regulation for seat position with a memory function. It's a bit excessive, but do you see what I did there? It's the same car, but adding some specific numbers and functions. Now I can see how it will improve my daily comfort and save me money, even being a more expensive car. You want to do the same with whatever achievements you had in your career or during your time at university. Think about everything that can be quantifiable. What will impress the interviewer is not necessarily the numbers themselves, but the fact that you did your research and measured your impact in a meaningful way. A bit exaggerated, but not a car example. Let's say you work at Starbucks and well, you sell coffee every day. You work faster than everybody else, but you also pay attention. After thinking for a while, you came up with an idea. If they take a black coffee, you offer them some pastry as well. And if they take a sweet drink, you show them healthier options to accompany a drink, maybe a nuts bar or a granola yogurt. You figured out that they are more likely to agree to buy something else if it goes better with their choice. Makes sense. Now, you can describe your experience as I worked in Starbucks and was selling coffee, desserts, and nut bars occasionally. Or you can say, not only was I able to serve on average 80 orders per shift, which is 15% better than everybody else, but I increased an average order price by 23% by offering a better pair to the ordered drink, which was my initiative. Now you sound like a freaking finance person. I want to hire you to run my whole restaurant if that's how you treat the work behind the counter. Prepare enough examples like this, maybe a bit more realistic, but still, and try to sprinkle them across your answers during the interview, and you'll be on top of your game. I have one last tip for after you actually complete an interview. This one is something nobody thinks to do, but I've done it myself and seen others do it as well. Whenever you feel like you didn't answer some question well and have more time to think, follow up and send an email or a LinkedIn message to the interviewer explaining why you didn't come up with a better answer on the spot, and having some more time to think, give them a new one. Once again, this shows that you care, if nothing else. Let's do a summary of everything we went over. Interviewers want to help you succeed, so use it to your advantage by asking them more questions to obtain that information. Remember that an interview has nothing to do with your job, and prepare for it. Do your research on the company and the job position to know what exactly they are looking for and adapt your answers to fit into this picture. Create a list of examples of how you applied your skills in your previous experience with clear explanation showing your thought process and takeaways. Sell yourself by telling an interviewer about impactful changes, preferably with meaningful metrics to highlight your achievements. I hope the look from the inside that I shared with you today will help you prepare for your following interviews, and you will land that dream job in no time. Let me know in the comments if there is more you'd like to know about interviewing, and if you learned something new, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you another time.